All right, welcome back, everybody, to the ATB NFL Live Show. As you can see already, we're down one Tony specifically today. He apparently was having a rough start of the day, and we're just going to kind
Yes,
of
we
truck
are
along without
specifically
him.
down one Tony.
Yeah, one specific Tony.
One Tony.
Uh, but no, we're going to truck along with Zach here and myself. But we'll get some word from Tony here. He gave us a couple blurbs for every game, and some of them I'll definitely have something to say about. I already kind of let him know that he's gonna have to get punched down a little bit without being able to defend himself. We'll talk about it, but no, it'll be a fun show. Just try to get through the
As
games.
always.
Probably a little quicker this time at least. Maybe we won't be here for 2 hours. Then again, me and Zach might debate for a while. We'll see.
We'll find out. We'll find out.
We'll see.
It's an interesting slate of games this week, so
yeah, interesting is a nice way to put it.
yeah, it's the nice way. Yeah,
we do the format now where
we're trying not to say boring, but
we do the format now where we're trying to kind of group the games into this might not be so great, interesting, must see, not a lot of must see games.
Okay. There is one that I would elevate.
There's one. We'll talk. We'll talk about it. You can let me know.
And it'll be in the interesting. So it's the second to last one in the interesting. I would elevate that one to must see because I think
second to last. Okay.
I think it's going to be a good matchup. Yeah.
Well, so a lot of times it's not so much whether it's a good matchup for me. It's about like, do I need to see this happen? Like, is this a game?
I want to see it happen because it's going to tell us a lot about both teams for the rest of the season.
We'll have to take a look at that, but. No, yeah. So just to get started here, we're going to recap the Thursday game as we always do, since we never get to that one with our predictions and everything. So we'll talk about that. Kind of went the way that you expect score-wise at the end. It was definitely closer than that for a lot of the game, but the Giants just couldn't do anything against the 49ers Thursday. That team is just, without Barkley, without just the offensive line playing well, it's tough on Daniel Jones.
Well, not even that. When you look at some of the statistics a little deeper, even if they had Barkley, even if they had the offensive line playing well, that was a matchup disaster for the Giants. That was like all the things that San Francisco excels at are all the things that the Giants are just, they cannot stop. Their rushing attack, their rushing defense is awful. Their defense is not great at doing getting takeaways, specifically interceptions. This is as crazy it is to say it, this is an offense that has thrown the least amount of interceptions since the start of last season, I want to say. And I mean, it helps when all of your receivers are wide open and they can have like a 3-yard radius to catch whatever you throw up. But then also that rushing attack is just insane. Christian McCaffrey was having effortless time just getting in and out of his blocks, getting in and out of his rushes, doing exactly anything he needed. So yeah, it went exactly how I thought it was going to go. I kind of wish I had put some money down on the spread before it got too wild. But I was playing beer pong that night at a retro arcade. So yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, I just think, like you said, it wasn't a great matchup to begin with, but I think the discrepancy in talent was very evident because with the NFC, there's not a ton of teams that are complete rosters, right? And the Niners are one of them that, especially because of the fact that Purdy's not going to be a problem basically just by default. Like the rest of the roster is so good that even though they don't have elite quarterback play in terms of actual talent ability, they've kind of just broken the mold, right? Like they just are saying, okay, well, what if everyone's always open basically, and he doesn't have to do too much? Now we saw in this game there's a couple times he did do too much. He had to have 2 interceptions broken up by his offensive players. Kittle had to kind of make that play on the sideline, and then he kind of did like a weird celebration afterwards, which kind of cracked me up. He's just like, I got that, or DB locking him down. And then same thing with Samuel, and he came back and made some better throws down the stretch. But again, this is a team that can afford their quarterback to not really be asked to do very much often. Now, I do wonder, and this is more for down the line and as they get into bigger games, like if they are able to stop that, if a team is able to force him to make more legitimate, like game-changing plays, will he be able to do it? I don't know. I think that they're hoping just to not find out for as long as possible. But in this game, he didn't need to do it, right? Like
I feel like we continue to ask that question, and like I agree with you.
Yeah.
But until it starts happening.
Until we see it, we can't say he won't. And that's the thing with Purdy is like, I'm going to be on the side of, err on the side of caution where guys with his profile generally just do not work out long term, right? And it's nothing
Yeah.
against him. He doesn't have a ton of physical ability as a thrower. He's not a guy that's supremely accurate. Doesn't have supreme pocket press. Like he doesn't have an elite trait. He just is playing within an elite system and playing well within it. And at some point, you worry: is the wheels gonna, or are the wheels gonna fall off? Probably not, because of how talented the team is. Again, if you go up against this Cowboys defense that's been showing up so far, if you have to play them in the playoffs again, and granted, last time you had to play them, you didn't have to do anything offensively because they couldn't do anything offensively. But again, like at some point, a defense is going to show up that can actually handle these guys. And then what does he do? Is he able to make more plays out of structure
Yeah.
than he's shown before? Is he able to make the difficult throws that maybe there's not a ton of separation? He has to fit it in. Like, we just don't know. And like, good on them for putting him in a position where we don't have to know for now. But it is interesting to see how it's going to go. Like, not every team is going to be this depleted Giants team that clearly just cannot block anybody and cannot get anything going offensively. So, but
Yeah. He's
we'll see.
undefeated as a starter, and that's insane.
Well, he has one loss technically, but it's only in the playoffs, and he didn't play the whole game.
Oh, in the
So it's
playoffs,
like,
yeah, and then
yeah,
regular season,
but
yeah,
but
regular
he didn't
season he's
play.
undefeated.
Yeah, he obviously didn't play the whole game, so even that's like whatever.
It's crazy.
But again, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like they have put him in a position where the skill talent, and especially like not the entire offensive line, but guys like Trent Williams and everything, they make it work so well that we just at this point we don't know a lot about him as a player
Yeah.
outside of just what we've seen. So
Just imagine if they had given Trey Lance a chance.
yeah, well, that's at a different timeline.
Yeah.
But let's move on to this week's games. Now that we talk about that, we'll start with the Colts and Ravens game. This is going to be one of our main games, mostly because you don't get to see Anthony Richardson, right? Like, he's not going to be in the game. As much as I love Gardner Minshew and everything he represents, I guess, fun guy. I just don't really care that much about this Colts team in general, even with Richardson in there
Yeah.
that much this year, at least for this season. You take him out of the game, and Lamar and the Ravens come in beat to hell, as they tend to the last few years. Just cannot start a season healthy, can't end a season healthy. As much as I'm like, obviously I'm a Steelers fan, right? Like the hat, if you've seen the show, I'm a Steelers fan. I still at some point I'm like, man, I want to know what this team can do if they have the players out there. Like
Exactly, yeah.
It gets to a point where I'm like, as a fan of the sport, I want to see what they're capable of, because like I don't want to beat them because they don't have any players. I want to beat them because we're better. And it feels like for a while, a lot of games that they've played in the past 3 years, they haven't been able to know if they're really better or not, because they have one running back that's healthy, or Lamar's out, or the receivers don't exist. Like it's just something. It feels like it's always something with this team, right?
Yeah, no. So this week, like we already said, like it's already going to be hampered enough that Anthony Richardson is out, and that kind of like takes all the excitement away from the Colts.
A little
but
bit.
Then you look at the Ravens, and it's like, oh, they have 3 defensive starters out. They have 4 offensive starters out. They're 2 of their, well, not even backups, because J.K. Dobbins would have been a starter, but 2 of their running backs are already on IR. They only have 1 currently rostered running back.
We assume Drake
Gus
will be up
Edwards,
or something. Yeah,
but Kenyon Drake's probably going to be elevated day of, as he was signed to the practice squad a couple days ago. It's just upsetting because, like, I mean, I guess you have to give the team a little bit of like leeway, because like, how are they supposed to run a new offense, a new scheme, when they don't have everything at their disposal, like literally from the get-go? It makes it very hard after doing this all off season and like preparing with all these pieces and stuff, and then all of a sudden the season hits and it just disintegrates right before your very eyes. So I guess like they're still, I mean, what they're still, are they 2-0?
Yeah, they're 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, so like they're still 2-0. We're talking about this crazy, and honestly, they'll probably get the win this week, because they still have Lamar Jackson, they still have Mark Andrews, they still have Zay Flowers, who's played fantastic so far as to start his rookie season. It's just going to be very questionable on the back end of the defense with Marcus Williams, Marlon Humphrey out, and do they have the protection up front to step in behind for losing Stanley and Linderbaum? Those are going to be your big questions there, because they've rolled with the rushing and wide receiver punches for years. I'm not worried about that, but the defense and the offensive line, that's where things get a little bit more questionable. But I don't think they should have a problem winning against another team that's missing their biggest like play creator.
Yeah, weapon. Yeah, I mean, we have notes from Tony, like I said, for all the games. His Cole quarterback battle that could have been exactly, and Ravens will probably win, but in a weird way, right? Like they'll win in some weird fashion. It'll be like 17-12 or something stupid or whatever.
And my
Like,
fantasy team is
yeah.
gonna hate it.
Oh yeah, and again, it's like Lamar will probably win this game because when the Ravens play with him, they win pretty much regardless of the situation. But it comes down to like, is this a game I want to watch? Not really. I'll watch the highlights if anything comes out of it, but I'm like,
I'll catch it on Red Zone if it pops
yeah,
up.
yeah, exactly, that type of thing. So yeah, I will say like for me, the Ravens will win most likely. I'm gonna say 20-17. I think it's gonna be closer than it should be because the Ravens have nobody out there basically. I'm mostly worried about DeForest Buckner with Linderbaum out as a way like because obviously
Yeah.
he's not going to deal with him one on one or anything like that, but he's the guy that can help with him and was going to see him a lot. So you got to make sure that you have somebody there that can handle that. And I think I'm assuming it's going to be what's his name backup like swing guy for the Ravens right now. Is Makari? He's played center before, right? Is he going to play center or is
They
it going to be?
currently
Or is he
have.
playing left tackle?
He's probably playing left tackle. They
That's
have
right. Yeah.
Sam Mustipher.
Oh, Mustapher. Yeah, I know. Okay,
Yeah,
so it's he'll play at center, and then they'll probably have
yeah,
Makari at left. But
yeah.
yeah,
That's
it's
what the.
just yeah, that makes sense. But again, can they handle him? Not probably not. But does it matter? Probably the market just keep
Yeah.
him off of him. So yeah, we'll what's your prediction there for score?
For score,
Right.
20
I have no idea.
to 20 to 12. 20 to 12.
Ah, nice. All right, that's a fun
Yes.
score.
I
Yeah,
feel like they're gonna
2017.
like
So
go for two and miss it after
oh, that's a
taking a couple
John.
field goals.
That's a Harbaugh special.
Yeah. No,
You're
no,
gonna
no, no,
go.
no, no. The 20 to
Oh,
12 Ravens.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. I thought you meant
Yeah.
like they score, like try to get like
No, the Colts will kick a couple field goals early, and then like the Ravens will stall out after getting 20 points, and then the Colts will score a touchdown and
touchdown,
like
try to
early
go.
fourth quarter
Yeah.
go for two and won't make it, and it'll be 20 to 12.
Ah, okay,
Boom.
interesting. There you go. All right. Moving on to our next game here, we have the Patriots and Jets.
Oh my
Um,
lord.
God, this is two teams that just feel like, well, especially the Jets, they just feel lost now that Rodgers is out, obviously.
Do
And
they
the
feel?
Patriots, well, here's the thing with the Patriots is I think they are a better football team than they were last year. They just their schedule is going to kill them. I feel like because they
Yeah,
start
okay,
off
that's
0
fair.
2.
I was gonna say I
Yeah,
think the Patriots look fantastic so far. They've just
well, I
run
mean,
into
the Patriots are playing better than they have in a
yeah, they've just
while.
run into two really good
Yeah, I
teams.
just don't think it matters. Like they're just not like I think that they're at a weird level where like they could theoretically beat anybody, which granted it's the NFL, anybody can beat anybody, but like I think they're a team that is like equipped to give everyone problems. I just feel like they're not going to finish enough because like I think the offense is just not quite there yet. Like Jones is playing better than he at any point he did last year, but there's still moments where I'm missing something with him. Like I feel like sometimes he can't get the ball exactly where he wants it to go, and I think part of that is just he doesn't have that elite arm strength, obviously, and he doesn't have the same accuracy that some of the other guys that don't have that arm has been able to rely on. His receivers are still meh overall. Like Henry's been great, which is good for them for that
Yeah.
contract, but again, like is that enough? So far, it hasn't been. The running game is very hit or miss. Like it's just not quite there. Like they look way more functional, right? And I think that's really
Well,
important, but I don't
so
know.
I guess I think the bigger problem is so one, they've run into like I said, two
Oh
very
yeah,
good teams to start the
absolutely.
season.
Yeah.
And the first 4 weeks, their first 4 weeks are very loaded with like three just like ungodly matchups. If they beat the Jets this week and they play Dallas close, I'm not
Yeah.
concerned. I'm not concerned because they
Right.
they lost to Miami by 7 points and they lost to Philadelphia by 5. I
Right.
don't think that's necessarily cause for concern. That's a better sign that the defense is doing a lot better because then after that, after week 4, they play the Saints, the Raiders, they'll go Bills and Dolphins again. But then the Commanders, the Colts, the Giants, they'll get a few weeks of like
Yeah.
games where it's like, all right, let's get this back on track.
They're
We can
they're
do
gonna have a
this.
chance, yeah, like in the
Yeah.
middle of the year to kind of go not necessarily a run, but like get closer to the 500 and win column and everything.
Yeah.
But
And if this
yeah,
defense stays how it's playing, I think a couple more weeks for the offense and they'll look just fine. And I
That's the
definitely,
question. Yeah.
and that's the thing this week is the defense gets to sharpen its claws and go to town against Zach Wilson. So I don't think they'll have any problems finding a way to a win this week. Just they will give Zach, or not Zach, they'll give Mac Jones plenty of opportunities to find some points here and there, find some drives, get things going.
Yeah, I think in a different way than what happened with Dallas, where like I think the Jets defense didn't necessarily play awful. They just were out there a lot, and Wilson couldn't do anything to give them a break. I think it's to a lesser extent the same type of thing happens with this game where New England probably only needs to score 17, 20 points.
Yeah.
And that might be enough because, and again, I was hopeful that Wilson may have, improved a little bit over the offseason, right? Learned a few things from Rodgers, maybe learned how to better prepare for games, learned how to, process things a little bit better with the offense because Rodgers knew it so well and he's going to be teaching him and everything. But right now, the offensive line play, even if Wilson was better, right? Even if he is a little bit better, which I feel like he's definitely at least a little bit better, but it doesn't matter because the offensive line is playing so bad that like he's just not going to be able to settle into anything. Like if anything works for him in this offense, right? We don't really know what it would be, but if he does like certain concepts, if he does see the field really well with certain things, if he's running for his life or can't trust it, especially as still a young quarterback, like he's not going to do well. We've seen how that affects young quarterbacks. I mean, my team's dealing with it right now with Kenny Pickett. Justin Fields has his own demons that he's dealing with right now, but he's dealing with some of that type of stuff for the offensive play calling and the structure is terrible. Like, if you don't have a supremely talented player at the position, it's just really hard to get anything going offensively whenever you're dealing with offensive line play like this. And the Patriots are going to take advantage of that. I mean, no team is better at attacking offensive lines with different formations, different blitz, different stunts. Like this is what they do, right? They create chaos for offenses. And I have Tony here saying game where Zach Wilson gets caught on the hot mic saying he's seeing ghosts out there, pulling a Sam Darnold. I guess is gonna experience what Sam experienced. And Pats dominate, he says. And I think it's fair to say that this could be the game that the Patriots, one, get in the win column and also look pretty good doing it. I do just wonder, like, can they score much on this Jets team? Probably not unless they get a lot of turnovers, which is totally possible with Wilson playing against his team, right? Like, if they get enough turnovers and get some short fields, it could get ugly. But I think more likely they control the game. They don't let Wilson do a whole lot offensively, and the Patriots probably win like 20-10 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of agree with me there on that kind of line there, or do you think?
I agree with you there. I would say maybe like 17-10, 17-7.
Yeah, it's gonna be like a tough day.
It's gonna because like look, New England's defense is playing fantastic, and they have a way with dispatching the Jets that is a little different. So
yeah, it's tough. It's tough sledding for the Jets. So yeah, probably Jets fans, I would look away this week. Probably it's just going to be one of those games. I know they're at home. That'll help a little bit maybe. But
a little bit.
It's tough sledding right now. You got to hope for a couple big plays that you kind of can manufacture. Moving to Carolina at Seattle. Now this is tough for me because the first 2 weeks for the Panthers have not gone exactly the way that I was hoping. I was hoping that the weapons that they brought in were going to be good enough to allow Young to kind of just make things happen within the structure of the offense. However, I will go to Tony's quips here first about this game. Panthers GM after this game, he threw out I forget which clip this is from, but I've made a huge mistake is what
it's Will Arnett.
Yeah, Will Arnett. I forget which show that's from, whatever, but that's what he's going to feel after the game. I personally think at this point with the Panthers, I went back and watched the 2 games that they've played so far, and I really watched in detail. I was looking specifically at what kind of route concepts they're running, how the receivers were playing within it. And Young has made his share of rookie mistakes, right? Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that he's played unbelievable and it's just his team is letting him down. But when I tell you, Adam Thielen is slow as shit. Like I was a huge Adam Thielen guy when he was coming up with the Vikings. I love the story. I love the way he played. Give him so much credit for making the career that he's made coming out of small college in Minnesota. Right. I just cannot watch this man run routes anymore. He cannot separate. He cannot separate, Zach, and it's infuriating. Watching a guy who I know is technically sound and can run routes, and he physically just cannot do it anymore. Like, he cannot get out of his breaks fast. He cannot run down passes down the sideline anymore. He can't elevate and get the football like he did so well, especially the year with Case Keenum. You saw all the jump balls, all that's like none of that is there right now. And like no one else is seemingly trying to pick up the slack. I mean, Jonathan Mingo had a horrendous game against the Saints. Like one of the worst like route running performances I've seen in a while. Just could not get out of his breaks well, was not accelerating through like anything, like if he was getting contacted at all, nothing. And it's
Yeah.
just hard to play quarterback when again your offensive line, it wasn't terrible, but it hasn't been great to start the year either. When no one around you is helping. And Tony made this comment. I understand it too. Like he's the first overall pick. He expects him to elevate the offense. I understand that, but this is a quarterback that thrives when within structure when given the opportunity and can still make plays outside of it. But if you cannot get open, nothing else matters. Like if there's open receivers, he can't hit them. If there's open receivers anywhere on the field and he's not seeing them, which that was a problem with the Falcons. He did kind of miss a few guys that did get open later in the game, but I think he was getting a little bit worried about Jesse Bates flashing out of nowhere after the 2 picks he had on him.
Yeah.
Week 1. But like what it comes down to with him, and the reason I'm glad they're sitting him is right now these receivers are not helping anybody. They're not helping. They're not going to help Andy Dalton. They're not going to help themselves. And there was plays where he had the opportunity to make big plays in the passing game, especially against the Saints. And inexplicably, the receivers just slowed down on their routes after the ball was thrown. And they could have been hole shots or they could have been throws down the field that were hit. And they just randomly stopped running. And I'm like, was that the end of your route and you just decided you didn't want to play anymore? Like, what's going on here? Like, just really weird stuff in Carolina right now. I'm hoping they can turn around. But Andy Dalton comes in for this game, gives Bryce Young a rest. He's got a knee thing going on. And frankly, Seattle,
lot of people have a lot of things going on.
They do. Yeah. And Seattle is probably going to blow them the hell out. Let's just be honest. Like this is a game. They're at Seattle. Their offense can't do anything. The defense has been okay, but they're missing some guys with injuries this week. JC Horn obviously won't see him for a while, which really sucks. I hate to see that. Really good player, but just can't stay on the field. This looks like a early, like just blowout style game.
It looks like it.
Yeah, surely.
You never know.
You never know. But I'm gonna say 30-12 is my score. Like it's not going to be close. I think the Panthers just can't score points right now.
Yeah. And Tony did come in with the message and say that it was Gob from Arrested Development. I've never seen Arrested Development.
Yeah, so I haven't seen the show fully. Yeah.
So I guess we did not quite get the reference. But yeah, no, this is going to be a bounce back. Well, not necessarily a bounce back week, but for Seattle, but like a dominant week for Seattle after a rough.
You want to see the defense show up really.
And then the thriller last week that they had against the Lions, which is turning into every season.
We got to have them play every year now, right? Like we have to. At least while these teams are in their current iterations, right? Like every year.
So yeah, I think they should have no problem dispatching Carolina, especially after I watched New Orleans defeat Carolina in the way that they did. Like 20. No, I'll go 31-17.
Okay, that's fair. Dalton might be able to get a little bit going just because he is a veteran guy. He's gonna make less mistakes probably overall than he's probably made. But again, it doesn't really matter if you make mistakes or not if there's no play to make anyway. That's kind of my big concern with Carolina right now. They got to figure something out there.
Yeah,
but we'll see. Dallas at Arizona, man. If there's ever a mismatch,
don't watch this game.
Yeah, just look at the box score. This is one box score game, I'll call it. Like, just look and see how bad it got, right? Like, we don't need to.
Unless you're a Dallas fan. If you're a Dallas fan,
if you're a Dallas fan, you can
go ahead and sit there and watch your team just bully a team that does not want to be here this year and has no interest in fielding a team.
I will give them credit though. Okay, the Cardinals. It's probably not going to happen 3 weeks in a row, especially against Dallas, right? I'm not saying
credit for what.
They've been in every game. They should have won last week.
Okay. Last week was more of an indictment of how bad the Giants are right now.
The players, though, man, listen, you can tell that they are really like leaning into like we don't want to be bad. We're going to do everything we can not to be bad. I appreciate the effort level. Okay, I'm not saying they're good.
I understand that.
Yeah,
but So I think this is. I've noticed something a little different about this Arizona Cardinals. tear down rebuilds, as opposed to like others where they've gone a different way about this. They've gone like the Oklahoma City Thunder way, where you literally field the worst roster you can. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you have an experienced veteran in Colt McCoy to run your offense. Oh,
Get
you
him
should
out of
be
here.
fine. While Kyler Murray's waiting. Nope. Clayton Tune or Josh Dobbs. That's who
Yeah.
we're rolling with. Like the roster construction is just extremely interesting. And like it's just built to like, no, the Giants were down 21 points. Or no, that was the Commanders. The Commanders were down 21 points. um, or were they both?
No, you're talking about the Cardinals Commanders game? Oh, I mean the
Well,
Denver game
the
last week.
Denver game
Yeah,
last
well,
week.
they were down a good bit, but they came back really fast. Though it got close quickly, and then they overcame Denver. But
Yeah.
because they had those big plays to Mims early on with
It
Denver,
was
and then they
21
stopped
to
running him.
it was 21-3 Denver.
Right, that's right. Yeah, that's what I thought.
So yeah, it was 21-3 Denver, but then it was 28-7
Yes, it was at
Arizona.
one point.
Yes.
Yeah,
So yeah, they both came back, but
yeah,
that last week, because like, look, Denver's not bad. They're not a bad
yeah.
team.
We'll get to them later.
We'll get to them later, but Arizona's a bad team, which
Oh
means
yeah,
that
they're terrible.
the Giants fans, oh my lord.
Yeah, I feel bad because like we talked about the Giants earlier with the Niners game, but like there's nothing going on there right now. Like
So
they're gonna really need a strong second
by
half
that
by this
metric,
team.
I'm gonna pick the Cowboys to win, obviously, but like 40-10 because
Yeah,
Arizona should be able to score.
I'm gonna say it's gonna be something closer to like 28-10 because I feel like the Cowboys are gonna let off the gas at some point because they can. Like it's gonna be like 28-3. Sorry, Falcons fans. Be 28-3 at like in like the third quarter late, and then they just let off the gas because they could just rest people. Like that's what it feels like. They'll let up a touchdown, move on. Like that's just what it feels like. I really respect the players for the Cardinals for playing as hard as they played through 2 weeks and making both games. One they should have definitely won. Another one that they really fought hard and was in the whole time. Like I respect them for that, but this team is bad, Zach. Like you said, they're
Yeah.
just literally like the design is to be bad. They are just straight up bad. There's really nothing else to say about it.
Hey,
I love Josh Dobbs, but
they fleeced the Texans for that
they
pick.
certainly
So
did. We'll see how that plays out for them. But
um
then again, the Texans they're bad, but they're also like not as bad as they've been. We'll talk about them later.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's also worth mentioning Trayvon Diggs did tear his ACL this week.
he did. Unfortunately, I wanted
Yesterday,
to.
day before.
It was like 2 days ago now, I think, maybe. I don't point is not good for Dallas. You don't
Yeah.
wanna see this happen to your
I mean,
defense,
not
but
good, but I it could be worse.
I
If
mean,
it
the
was
fact
Micah,
that they added Gilmore is looking more and more, smart as the season goes
I
on.
would be more upset if it was Micah Parsons,
Well,
or
I mean, yeah, because the
um,
pass rush really helps the secondary. Like, Diggs has been great to start the year and was great
or even
last year.
DeMarcus Lawrence. But yeah,
Yeah,
it hurts, but
yeah.
they should be okay.
I
Hey, they
think
got
yeah, I think
they got Noah Igbenogany. What are you worried about?
hey, he can block field goals and get touchdowns, right?
Hey, yeah.
So moving on to a game that I certainly was not upset about putting into the meh category because listen, Pittsburgh at Las Vegas. So something interesting, Zach, and I talked about this. I do a couple live shows throughout the week for Still Curtain, and I also do it for the Pro Sports Fans app. By the way, if you guys want to check that out, one of the stats that we talked about on one of the live streams for the app that I'm working with is the fact that the Raiders have not, or sorry, the Steelers have not beat the Raiders at their home stadium since 1995. It has
Oh
been since
wow.
McBride was born. So it is Las Vegas now, a little different, a
And before I
little
was
different
born.
vibe. Yeah, right. It's been a while. Um, and that's not even the reason why I have it this way. It's the fact that I cannot tell anyone that isn't a Steelers fan to watch this team play football until one of two things happens. All right. Until either Matt Canada doesn't exist anymore, or until, despite him being the offensive coordinator, this team scores at least 21 offensive points. Now, You think, right?
Are you going to count a punt return?
No, it doesn't
No.
count.
So it has
It
to
has to
be.
be a play that Matt Canada
What if it
called.
is? What if it is 7 field goals?
You know what? I'll take it, but
Okay.
still no.
Okay.
So if you're a fan of the sport, right? There's this graph going around, and it's one of the EPA graphs. And like, granted, do I know enough about EPA to come on here and say like it's the end all be all of things? No, but I know it's a good metric. It predicts well. It tells you a good bit about an efficiency for a team, which efficiency is something I very much covet, especially
Oh, I've
offensively,
seen this
right?
graph and the one that
Yeah,
with the Dolphins that is just like stupid.
yeah, exactly. The Steelers are in a different galaxy than the rest of the league offensively in terms of how bad they are. And it's not even like, oh, they're like kind of far off to the left and lower quadrant. No one else exists in their territory. They have created a space for themselves, the anti-safe space, we'll call it,
So
right?
so is Miami, but
Yeah,
in
well,
the opposite
exactly,
fashion.
exactly. They have created themselves a pocket in which they exist, their own little pocket dimension of sadness offensively. We're scoring right now, Zach, 9.5 offensive points per game. Okay. The Steelers' offense and defense through 2 games have the exact amount of touchdowns scored as each other. This is not
That's not good.
this is not sustainable, right? How we're 1-1 is purely based on Deshaun Watson being ass. That is the only reason that we are 1-1. And as much as I am happy about that, I don't know if I've been less satisfied with a victory as a Steelers fan in a long time.
How did how did
Yes.
that Browns game sneak into interesting?
Well, it's mostly for the fact that I want to see if these teams can do anything
Okay.
against each other's defenses
Okay.
because Watson's ass. Okay,
And now they don't have Nick Chubb.
they don't have Nick Chubb. The Titan, we'll get to them a little bit, but the Titans
Yeah.
have a pass funnel defense right now where they're just kind of letting teams throw, but they're not letting them, consistently gain yardage on the ground. It's going to be interesting. Point is,
Okay,
that's why I have it as interesting.
anyways, okay,
But
yeah.
again, until Pittsburgh proves to me they can score like 3 touchdowns worth of
Yeah.
offensive points in one singular game, I cannot tell anyone else to watch them. I'm going to watch them. I have to. Not only that, I'm going to actually be live streaming this. Like, I'm going to be doing a game day live for that app I was talking about. This like tomorrow night for the game. I'll be going live the entire time during it, and I guarantee you, I'm going to hate my life probably most of it. Right?
Well, at least you can sleep well knowing that 3 offensive touchdowns would probably mean winning the game because
Yeah,
the Raiders are not good either.
and that's why I'm saying the Raiders, will we beat them? I think we will,
If
but
you
I think
score
right.
3 offensive touchdowns.
I think if we score 20 points any sort of way, we can beat them. However, I just don't want to see it because I know it's going to be some stupid shit that lets us win. Like Jimmy Garoppolo is going to throw a pick six to Minka or something, or TJ Watt's going to pick Jimmy Garoppolo up and carry him into the end zone with the ball still. Like something stupid's going to happen. And the offense is going to go out there. Oh, we scored 10 points, so we won. We can do this. And it's like, no, stop. What are we? And
Yeah.
then I'll throw Tony's snippet out here. Most likely to entrench the late round backup, granted undrafted, actually respect on the undrafted Jalen Warren.
Oh, dang.
As a starting running back over the first round pick, I disagree, but we'll talk about that in a second. He said Jalen Warren should feast in this game after what James Cook did to them. Steelers get one in the win column. I agree with the win for the Steelers. I understand, like, there's been this thing with Najee versus Jalen, right? The problem with it mostly is that I don't care who the running back is if nobody wants to block anybody. Not one person on this team has blocked anybody yet this year. Dan Moore might as well be me out there. All right, like I'm just gonna say that. I don't know what he has to do to get his job taken away from him. Broderick
No,
Jones,
Dan Moore might as well be me out there. I am 5'10", 120 pounds. Like we
yeah, it's
might as well be a
insane.
stick.
Like, because my whole thing with it is, okay, Broderick Jones, first round pick, raw, very talented, good run blocker right now. Pass blocking needs work. If Dan Moore is going to be a absolute liability, then who cares if Jones is a liability too? He'll run block. At least he'll have the athleticism to get out in space and do some stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
Like if he doesn't start soon, if Moore doesn't, like I understand Moore's played Myles Garrett and Nick Bosa and those defensive fronts. It's not easy. But dude has been the worst player in the sport at this position of offensive tackle to start the year, and it's probably not getting a whole lot better than that. So like I'd like to see that switch. But I'm done spewing about the Steelers. I'm gonna say 2017 they win. What's your score prediction, Zach?
2017. You know what? I will go 21 to 14. They get their 3 touchdowns. I don't think they're all going to be offensive touchdowns, but they get their 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm gonna say there's probably 0% chance the 20 points
There's one punt return. There's one kick return for a touchdown in this game.
I want to see. I think Calvin Austin might return a punt. Kick is hard because he doesn't really do that. Like he's gonna probably have to this week, but because Gunner is concussed, and also I don't know if you saw the play.
He's out.
Did you see the play where this like started the game whenever he like decided to try to use the kickoff out of bounds rule, but toe tapped it?
No.
I gotta take a second to talk about this. This man was out there trying to catch a sideline toe tap pass as a kick returner. You know the rule where if you catch the ball or touch the ball well out of bounds on a kickoff, it counts as an out of bounds kickoff, right?
Yeah.
He tried to do that. Now the problem with it, one, is it would have done it on its own. I think it would have gone out of bounds by itself. He didn't have to do it, but he toe tapped it.
Oh, like inbounds?
He didn't go out of bounds. He toe tapped a kickoff return. I've never seen anything like it. And I remember looking around like my apartment, like, did anyone else see what I just saw? Like, what the hell just happened? He toe tapped a kickoff return. And then he gets concussed later in the game. And I'm like, man, you would have thought that play happened before the kickoff because of the way he was acting out there.
Oh my God.
No love in my heart for Gunnar Olszewski. Moving on to Chicago at Kansas City.
Oh my God.
The reason I have this interesting is not because I think the Bears will make this an interesting game. It's because I want to know if the Chiefs offense can finally put up a 40 burger after 2 games of really like lackluster play for the most part. I want to see how bad this can get. I need to watch this game at least like partially.
It's gonna be bad.
Oh, you assume so. I mean, Chicago has been going through it. The whole Alan Williams thing with the like. There's all the like speculation about like Charles Tillman getting involved. Like all that stuff was crazy. Like luckily none of that was real. I guess it was just he resigned, and we don't know. I don't know if we know why at this point, honestly. No. But he's gone. Which again, I don't know if that matters that much. Justin Fields is out there. Just he. You know what's weird about him this year? And it's really his whole career so far in the NFL. He is playing slow and fast at the same time. Like he doesn't like he's not seeing it's too fast for him, but he's playing like it's not, and it's weird. Like he's so slow with everything he does in the pocket that he gets sacked whenever like he totally could have made a play. And there's other times where he's like not trusting anything, so he just immediately is like bailing. It's so weird what he's doing right now. And like if you haven't seen the JT O'Sullivan's quarterback school breakdowns on YouTube, if you have not seen him break down the Bears and you want to know just how bad it is offensively, and like a lot of it isn't Justin, but a lot of it's very much a like mix of everything being terrible. Go watch those YouTube videos. Some of the funniest football content I've ever seen. Like he was talking about Chase Claypool. He just calls him 10 all the time. And he does that with most players. He just calls him by their number. But like he was saying the funniest stuff about him. Like it cracked me up so bad. Brought back bad memories of Chase Claypool flopping around on the ground during games for some reason. I still don't know what that was about. So funny. Definitely check those out. But yeah, basically the end all be all is the Bears are real bad, and they're bad for a lot of reasons, and they're probably going to keep being bad for a lot of those reasons. And the Chiefs should dominate them. I'm just curious to see, and why it's interesting, just how bad does it get? What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, no, there was that video also of DJ Moore talking to
I forget who it was.
Levante David?
Yeah, I think it was Levante
No, TJ
David.
Edwards. TJ Edwards.
Oh, was it him? Okay.
It's somebody who was with Tampa because did they play last week?
Yeah, that's who they played last week.
Yeah, and he was just like, "Oh, they don't know how to use you, bro," and he was like,
"Yeah, tell me about it." Yeah, tell me about it.
So The Bears are awful. The Chiefs are a good coach team. It doesn't matter if they don't have wide receivers right now. They
Yeah.
have Travis Kelce back. They should be fine. Chiefs win 35-10.
I'm going to say 35-14. I think Justin Fields has 2 plays where he just does something crazy because he's a great athlete. And outside of
Yeah,
that, it's a lot of sadness.
where he rushes the ball.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. Also, I want to talk about the Bears a little bit longer just because they frustrate me. You have a super weapon as a quarterback in terms of the running game, and they're trying so hard to make him a pocket passer, which again I think he's capable of being in the right situation, but they're trying so hard to make him sit in the pocket that I think that's part of why his everything is so slow looking because he's trying his best. He's like, I gotta stay in the pocket, I gotta hit these throws, but he's not seeing a lot of the stuff right now that they're asking him to see on the field, and the passing concepts are awful, like horrifically bad. If you watch his breakdowns from quarterback school on YouTube, you'll really get an insight on why they're so bad. But to give you an idea, they ran the same screen pass on the freaking goal, their own goal line, like 3 straight times at the end of near the end of that game against the Bucks last week, and it ended up being an interception for a touchdown at one point because of course, they knew it was coming because they kept doing it. It's like, what do you? Like, this isn't Madden. Like they're gonna know the screen's coming after a couple times of seeing it. Like what are like this is what I'm talking about. Like the Bears don't have to be this bad, Zach. Like they could
Yeah.
be mediocre if they really had any sort of offensive coaching, especially. But they're like, we'll just do whatever, whatever we can. Dude, some of the offensive line play from them too is not even just like them losing straight up. It's them like not knowing how to like get into the right pass set. Like I forget which guard it was, but there was a play last week where he like straight up like prevented the center from getting around and picking up the stunt because his set was so shallow as a pass blocker.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I'm like, what are we doing? None of it makes sense. All right. I'm going to say, like I said, like 35-14. Houston at Jacksonville. This is interesting because one, CJ Stroud looked pretty phenomenal last week overall as a rookie quarterback, especially for being a rookie quarterback. And Nico Collins, who I really have always felt could be a 1,000-yard receiver type of guy, like he's not necessarily like not necessarily like a true like prototypical number one, but a guy who can be the number one, option for a good passing game. And I think he's showing that so far. You've seen guys make plays for Houston where, again, like I think the biggest difference between the way Stroud has played and the way the Young has played is Stroud's been able to throw with anticipation in the way that he was so spectacular at doing it at Ohio State because his receivers are on time. They're where they're supposed to be. They're getting separation. And we kind of viewed that group going into the year as possibly a detriment to Stroud. They've really picked him up a little bit and really given him opportunities so far to make some plays. So you love to see that. I want to see more of that. And then Jacksonville, can Trevor Lawrence in the passing game get going after a really rough week last week? And granted, it's Chiefs, tough game, but I really thought there'd be more fireworks in that game more than anything else. And it was really just a really slugfest, like ugly game. You want to see Jacksonville at home be able to pick up a win, hopefully pretty easily for their sake and look really good doing it. So what do you think, Zach?
Well, they should have a pretty good opportunity this week because the Texans are missing quite a few pieces on their defense.
Yes, they are. Yes.
Denzel Perriman's out, Jalen Peters out, Tavierre Thomas is out, and then Tavierre Thomas, and then most notably Derek Stingley, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stingley,
yeah,
Stingley Jr. Went on IR this week.
Unfortunate.
Very unfortunate. They have IR just sprinkled everywhere on their roster.
Yeah, that defense is already still being built up, obviously, and losing a lot of your pieces is going to make it really hard.
Yeah. Thankfully, CJ Stroud is healthy. He's like the only one of the rookie quarterbacks right now that is healthy. So we will get to see him, and that's nice. But I don't think it's going to matter all that much because Jacksonville is doing fantastic again this season. Pretty much in line with what everybody thought was going to happen this year. Maybe a little slower out of the gate than many thought with the offense, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully they can bounce back from kind of honestly, I would say a letdown game last week. Like we say that's the Chiefs, but like
the Chiefs defense, how they lost, right?
Yeah, they didn't. They never got in the end zone. They kicked 3 field goals. Like,
Yeah, like the defense really held up their end of the bargain all day. It's just the
Yeah,
offense couldn't get
the offense
going.
couldn't do anything,
Yeah.
and it was just like, oh, okay,
So I will say this Chiefs defense is the best it's looked to start a regular season in a while
yes,
overall. So
yes,
like that could be part of it too. But again, you want to be able to win games like this when if you keep the Chiefs offense to 17 points, you want to win a game, right? Like
yeah,
that's what it comes down to. And they couldn't do it. And this should be a bounce back effort. But again, like I think it's mostly going to be can they get ETN going in the run game because especially against the Texans with Perriman out, like he's their top run stuffer for sure as a linebacker.
yeah,
Should be
and then
plenty of
like,
space for the running backs. So
and there should be plenty of space in the secondary as well with all these
you
guys.
should. There should be.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah, we'll see. But I'm gonna say 31-17. I'm gonna pick Jacksonville to win here at home. I think Texans do a couple good things offensively, but
I'll do
just can't
31-21.
compete. Yeah, something like that. I think is definitely fair. Chargers at Minnesota, the meme game, Zach. The
Yes,
meme game of the
as
week.
Tony said, most likely to have the drunkest finish of any game this year.
Yes, 100%. Oh, speaking of which, I want to make sure I throw his out here for Chicago, Kansas City. He had the kick them while they're down game. Hilariously mean the schedule after the week Chicago had. 100% right. And then most likely to force the stud offensive head coach to permanently take back play calling from Press Taylor because Press Taylor ain't it. That's about Jacksonville as offensive coordinator there with
He says
Peterson.
Jags went ugly.
See, ugly, I get it because, like, again, the offense looks disjointed, but I think that this is a week that they can get things on track because of the missing pieces defensively for the Texans.
Yes.
Again, back to Chargers, Minnesota. Yeah. What do you say about the Chargers, man, at this point? Because we can talk about Minnesota too, but like I said it last week, right? And I understand the pushback on it from you guys a little bit, but like Brandon Staley just quite
Yeah.
frankly ain't it.
No, he's
And
not.
I hate it because people are already starting to pile on Justin Herbert, right? And like I've seen so many people bring up stats and different arguments about why that's not fair. And I agree with pretty much all of them because this is a guy who has scored a ton of points for his offense in his career so far. They're one of the higher scoring teams offensively in the league especially whenever all his weapons are healthy. But it feels like the defense is just bad enough to make it not matter more often than it should be. Right? It's like one of those situations where it feels like teams are never out of it against the Chargers, right? Like they can't just put somebody away defensively. And there's no quarterback while he's been playing has had more teams have fourth quarter comebacks happen on the opposite side than Herbert, right? Because it feels like if a team has a chance down late, right? And you could say, well, part of it is like, well, they can't hold the ball, the whatever. Yeah, their run game can be hit or miss because Eckler isn't like a true power back, and they have had struggles
And he's
having
going to
a
be
guy
out this
behind him.
week.
Yes, doesn't help. And run game did not help him last week, obviously. You could say part of that is the inability to finish drives or whatever else. That's fine. But this team just they find ways to lose, Zach. Like they're one of those teams that do that, and it
Yeah.
sucks because they have talent theoretically, and some of that talent is a little bit overrated, I think, at this point. And like,
Yeah,
like Khalil
especially on the
Mack and
defense.
stuff.
And I
But
think that's one of the things
yeah,
that's letting everybody down is like, it
yes,
doesn't make any sense because on paper, the defense should be so much better than it is.
yeah, and I think
They
like Khalil
have
Mack has been bad, and
the pieces. I mean, Khalil Mack, Kenneth Murray Jr. is not bad.
yeah, he's whatever.
Joey Bosa, Eric Kendricks has been staying on a roster for continuous years. Obviously, there's something there to like mean that he should be staying on an NFL roster.
He's lost a step or two, but he's still a good player at linebacker.
Derwin
So.
James, Asante Samuel. I mean, like you have all these pieces, and then it just like everything comes falling down and crashing down. I don't really have many complaints about the offense this year because like
No,
Justin Herbert
overall,
hasn't been playing bad.
no.
And like their offensive line has been keeping up with the protection, helping it except at the end of the Dolphins game.
Yeah, which
But I mean, eventually somebody
Yeah.
was going to get in and get pressure.
Mhm.
I don't know. I've said the past couple of seasons with the way that the things have gone for the Chargers that they need to do something else besides Staley because it was evident that it wasn't working out. But I mean, I wasn't willing to say that after week 1 because I don't think that's fair to do that after it. It would be like losing to the Chiefs in a close game and being like, nope, got to get rid of Staley, like get him out
Yeah.
of here. And it's just like, oh, really? He lost to one of the best teams in the league, and you're like, get out? That doesn't make much sense. But no, they lost to Tennessee last week in a slightly embarrassing fashion. I mean,
Yeah.
at this point in his career, Ryan Tannehill should not be scoring 12-yard rushing touchdowns. There's no reason for that.
Yeah.
There's
And
no reason
yeah,
for that.
that's my issue. Is like it's not like I understood you guys pushing back, like I said last week, because like, oh, Miami's just really good, and
Yeah.
and I'm like, but it's the way that they lose. It's they give up just enough. They do
Yes.
everything they can to make it a game, and then at the end they let it happen.
Or,
Like something
that's
happened.
them. I mean, this week they had to kick the field goal as time expired to get to
Yes,
overtime. Like,
exactly. Like
they were down.
they can't just win a game comfortably against a team that they can beat, and especially in Tennessee. Like,
Especially in Tennessee. Their
yeah,
offense should have had no issues.
right. And it's just again, it comes down to the fact that like I don't think he's a good coach, and we'll see how it plays out the rest of the year. And then for Minnesota, you kind of feel for them because they're getting the opposite of what happened last year, where they're not going to win these one-score games at an insane rate, right? They're not going
And
to be able
that's
to just do that, and
and
it
with what we've
happens.
seen with Minnesota, if Staley wants to make a statement, this is the week where he has to
Yes,
double down, have this defense ready to take over and win this game and force turnovers and do all this stuff, because we've seen not necessarily interceptions, but the running game has been a disaster for Minnesota
completely
this year.
useless
They
this
have
year.
so many fumbles. It is insane. You have to take advantage. The Chargers are 0-2. That's not a good. There's
This is already a must-win game for both teams, in my
yes,
opinion, if they want to factor into the playoff race. Because
yes,
especially for Minnesota, I mean, like they cannot fall behind, because this is not a team defensively that is going to be able to win a lot of games down the stretch against any tough opponents. You have to try to stack some wins early in the season, to give
and they
yourself
have
some
two
wins.
hot teams ahead of them
They
in
do.
the Packers, which is crazy. We're saying that still,
Yeah, we'll get to them.
and the Lions. So,
Yeah, luckily
like,
they don't have to worry about the Bears, it seems like, but still.
well, yeah, none of them do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
I don't think anybody was worried about the Bears to begin with.
not factoring into the playoffs now, but
No.
again, like Minnesota, like their passing offense has been great so far. Cousins has been really good overall. Jefferson is on like a crazy pace through 2 games. It's insane. But at the end of the day,
But if
like
the defense can't stop anything and you
if
keep
you
putting the ball
score
on the ground,
if you score 28 and give up 34 like they did last week, like who cares, right?
yeah,
It doesn't matter. And that's what the question is. Like the Chargers offense should score 30 points in this game. It's can their
it's
defense not allow 30
well,
points?
their defense, yeah. Now,
Or
thankfully,
yeah,
they're not going up against the fastest offense in football, but
correct. They didn't do it last week either. So
yeah,
it's like, I that's my problem with the defense is it feels like they're as bad as they need to be. Zach, like they're as
yeah.
bad as they need to be against whatever team they play. Like, oh, you don't have any
Well,
speed? Well, we'll tackle you.
that sounds like Tony talking about the Buffalo Bills.
Well, we don't talk about that later. But no, I'm gonna say that this is no. Tony said, "F it, they tie," which would be great. Would love
That would
that.
be
Be
hysterical.
awesome. But I'm gonna say that whose luck do I trust less? I'm gonna say
Minnesota's
Minnesota.
at
Yeah,
home.
they're at home. I'm gonna say 34-31. The Chargers have a chance to kick a field goal to tie the game from like 28 yards out, and somehow they miss it, and then we all go home and laugh about it. That's what I'll say.
I'm gonna say that the Chargers win 27-17. I really think that this will be. I mean, I think that at some point, Brandon Staley's seat, he has to start feeling it get hot, and he has to start making some changes.
Yeah, I mean that's great. Don't think he can.
Hey, wishful
That's where I'm
thinking.
at. That's where I'm
Wishful
at.
thinking. And I can hope for it. At least
Yeah,
I'm on the same side as everybody with the Chargers winning, except for Tony, who has a tie. But
yeah,
yeah,
we'll see here. Tennessee at Cleveland again. I had this as a interesting game because I want to see what a team that just
I
lost
want to
their
see what the
identity.
heck
Yeah,
Cleveland was gonna do now.
yeah, I want to see what is their identity now that Chubb is gone,
Well,
and then
it's the perfect
yeah,
game for them to have to figure it out.
exactly. You think that you can get the passing game going against a Titans team that is actively
You have
trying to
to.
let teams kind of
You
just do what they
have
want
to.
in the passing game, right? It feels like that's what they're doing because like the
You have
Chargers
to.
just given like Keenan Allen was Williams open all the time. Like it just didn't matter because they allowed just enough, like few enough points to
Thank you, Tony,
survive.
for the Mike Williams yards prop last week.
Yeah, really, yeah. I mean, it was
maybe some
inevitable.
money.
It was inevitable. But no, again, like if Cleveland can't get the passing game going, which you assume they are going to try to do, because one, it should work theoretically. It's a better strategy than trying to run into their wall that they're trying to create for run game. But if it doesn't work against Tennessee's defense the way that they're trying to play defense, because again, it's not just that they're like terrible in the secondary, they're trying to like allow certain things to just kind of it's a weird defense, but it's technically worked like relatively well so far. It's
Yeah.
just can they get the passing game going and get some big plays, because Murray Cooper should play. He already played last week, banged up, and now he's going to play this week, should be fine. Like if they can't get the passing game going with Watson in this game, it just might not be coming, Zach. It just might not be.
It might be DTR time. Um,
I'm game for DTR to come in.
I
It's
am
not.
totally game for
Yeah, they're not
James
benching
Robinson.
Mr. 230 million. It's not happening. I'll just
Well,
say
that's the thing is if he can't pass the ball this week,
that. I
then
mean, yeah.
then
I'm not saying they
what
shouldn't. They just
what are
won't.
we waiting for? What
I don't know. I don't know.
like I don't understand what's going on because like the Browns gave Deshaun Watson $230 million because
And for
they
what?
they were expecting the player that was in Houston, which
Yeah.
was fantastic. He was a
Yeah.
great quarterback. He was
We all agree with that.
he was an offensive weapon. He was like constantly at the top of the leaderboards and pretty much every statistic, and nothing has come about in Cleveland. Now I'm wondering, with Nick Chubb out, will this kind of force them to change up some things? And maybe they were trying to force too much to Nick Chubb and have him do too much, and like they were doing too much focusing around Nick Chubb. I don't think so.
No. I think
Because
that was
you
probably
don't
smart.
pay somebody $230 million and then don't focus the offense around them.
Yeah, ideally not.
But again, if Deshaun Watson cannot have success in the passing game against Tennessee, I don't know how they're going to continue to win many more games because they don't have Nick Chubb. Jerome Ford's
Yeah.
cool, but
Yeah.
like they don't have Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb
And like
is honestly probably one of the, if not the best running back in the league. If we're talking about a pure running back.
yeah, I'd say like if we're just talking about like overall run, because like Henry has obviously his big games, but he is very specific to like his style of running.
Yeah,
Chubb is
for
just straight
consistent.
up,
Yeah, for
like,
consistent and like I need a running back in here to get me 5 yards. You get
yeah,
Nick Chubb, who has a 5-yard average for his career.
exactly. Like again, he's the Mr. Consistent, right? Like
Yeah,
he's been like, I'm gonna give you 5+ yards carry, gonna give you, 80, 90 yards a game. Like it's just at least and that's what it is, right? And I think
yeah,
that their offense was centered around him for years for that reason. And I think they
for a
wanted
good
to,
reason. Yeah,
yeah, they wanted to move close more to the passing game because they felt like they had somebody who they could do that with. And it just hasn't happened yet. And honestly, for me, like Watson, he's been bad, and I think there's a lot of reasons for it, but he's in his head. Like that's what it is, because you see him like there's moments where you see him throw like, that looks like Watson as far as like his ability to throw the football. He's in his head. Like he had 2 face mask penalties against the Steelers last week for no apparent reason. Like he was just random, like he's just doing weird shit. Like the guy's just in it, like he's in his head over it. And I feel bad because like we all know what's gonna probably happen here is that the Browns are bad this year, which I don't know if they'll be bad necessarily regardless, just because their defense is damn good, like legitimately damn good. If they have a losing season, you know that Watson isn't going to be the guy that gets blamed for it because they can't afford to do it. They literally cannot financially recover from him not being good. They're going to fire the coach at some point before they let him go. Like that's what's going to happen. And
well, they
it's not going
have
to be
to.
Stefanski's fault. Yeah, it's not going to be Stefanski's fault if he does, because he's calling great plays. Like I watched that game back, and like there was opportunities, and Watson was either late throwing the ball to the sideline where there was an open guy, or he was late getting out of the pocket and allowing pressure to kind of suffocate him. Everything that he was doing was just off kilter, and it still has been. He's had enough time at this point. I'm sorry. Like I understand he went a long time without playing. He's had an entire offseason. He had the last 6 games last year. He's had 2 games this year. He doesn't look any better, Zach. And like I don't
Yeah.
know when he is going to, if he is, right? Like that's what it comes down to. So I'm going to say that Tennessee wins ugly, and that's what Tony has here too, that they're going to win close and ugly. I think there's going to be probably a defensive touchdown in there somewhere, and Tony Britt
Yeah,
might put
Tony
that up
said most
too.
likely have more defensive
Defensive,
touchdowns than offensive.
right?
And
I wouldn't be surprised.
the only way that happens, the only way that happens is if Cleveland has multiple defensive touchdowns because I don't see the Titans getting many.
Yeah, that both teams have the potential to give the ball away, though. I mean, you saw what happened with Cleveland last week. They just gave up two. Now, granted, I know Pittsburgh's defense is more of a playmaking defense than Tennessee,
Yeah.
but yeah, I could see this getting. I'm going to say 14-10, Tennessee.
I'll give it a 17-7.
Nice. Okay.
Cleveland.
Oh, Cleveland. All right,
Yeah,
cool. Well,
Cleveland.
let's see what happens with them. New Orleans at Green Bay. This was most likely to throw water on the Love hype and make Tony look dumb, is what he put for himself here. And Saints stack another close, uninspiring win. Yeah, Zach, go ahead. I know you want to talk about it. Go ahead.
Everybody keeps doubting my teams that I say are gonna win, and they will keep winning. Yeah, no, the Saints defense is awesome, and they continue to be awesome. And I do think that this week they are going to give Jordan Love a very difficult time. Now the Packers also have a pretty decent defense this year. It's not doing too bad. Who have they played? They've played
The Bears
the Bears
and
and
the Falcons.
they lost to the Falcons.
Yeah,
So
because
yeah.
Bijan Robinson's better than them. So
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. The Saints are in a bit of a predicament at running back. So it will be interesting to see what they do with that. Because Jamal Williams is out and Kendry Miller will be playing. They signed somebody else this week. I forget who. Tony Jones.
Yes, he had 2 touchdowns last week, I think, for them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, something like that. I think he scored a couple of something like that.
Yeah, he must have been on
Yeah.
there because they needed to back up because Kendry Miller was out last week.
Mhm.
They're starting to get a little bit of the injury bug, but
Yeah.
they're mostly okay. It's just the running back room, and then this is the last week of the Alvin Kamara suspension. So hopefully next week things get better.
Yeah, I don't know. I've kind of lost interest in Alvin Kamara as a player. I don't really see it with him anymore at this point. Like, regardless of suspension, he just doesn't inspire a lot of confidence.
No,
people
I
last
think
2
I
years.
think this year will be a little different with an actual quarterback in the that was the
Yeah,
issue
I mean, you
the
hope
past
so,
couple
but
seasons is because
yeah.
they were doing all this bullshit with like Taysom Hill, and they're like, oh well, we don't really have a consistent running or quarterback to throw the ball from down to down. We just threw Ian Book in there, and I don't know why. It's that idea like like Alvin Kamara is an extremely talented player, but when you know that the offense is going to give the ball to Alvin Kamara every down and you can key in on him every single play, it's like, oh yeah, no, I wonder why he's not doing anything. And that's why you have guys like Raheed Shaheed who are like, oh, like, yo, I've never heard of this dude before. How did he get a touchdown? Because they don't care about him. They don't think he's going to score. So it's going to be an interesting game. Dave Bakhtiari is a little banged up, and Elton Jenkins is going to be out. So a little worrisome, but I just don't know exactly. Like, either like these offenses are going to go off and like just not worry about the defense, or it's just going to be like another just low scoring defensive game that the Saints have excelled in over the past few years because their offense is crap.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more likely a slugfest, and honestly, like
Yeah.
the Saints' offense has been pretty rough to watch 90% of the time. Right? They've had a couple big plays, like Sheed, especially, and him and Carr really seem to have been linking up well so far. Right? You like to see that, but the Saints last week, even though they won, but
a Saints quarterback having 200 yards for 2 weeks in a row at least. That's incredible. Incredible.
That's incredible if you're playing on the Matt Canada scale and you don't want to be doing that, Zach.
Olave has 200 receiving yards this year already in 2 weeks. That's great.
Yeah, like
I'll take that.
They've had their moments, right? But like, there's also moments last week where it kind of felt like they wanted to lose the game, Zach, and it's not great. Like, I just feel like both of these teams have their issues, and I think you're going to see a lot of them kind of come out in this game. But I do think that with Green Bay being at home, I think that they can get it done at home, even if it's going to be a close game. I'm going to say 2017 Green Bay. Pretty ugly game overall, but again, I trust that the home team with, honestly, I'm almost willing to already say the better quarterback, Zach. And this is not because I like Jordan Love the most, but like, I'm gonna give like Carr's a veteran. He's played much more. I'm gonna give him the nod for now. But like, I think that they'll be able to get it done. What do you think?
So, and that's the last thing I'll say about the Saints offense. They only had 2 3-and-outs last week, which like that's they if they can finish drives, which is the biggest issue is finishing the drive.
Yeah,
Getting 6, 7, 8 plays down the field and showing nothing for it is not the way to do anything in this league.
at least you're
And
getting 6 or 7 plays at least.
exactly, and that's
I'm
the
seeing
good thing.
3.
Yes, exactly.
Sorry.
So, look, Jordan Love has been fantastic. They are at Green Bay. They're up there. It's only September though. It's the end of September. We're hit. It's really weird. It's a little tropical stormy here right now.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
60, 60, 50, 60, 70 degrees. But I think it's good for New Orleans that they're hitting Green Bay in September and not like November, December.
Yeah,
It's going to be a close one.
I do
And
think so. Yeah,
I think that the Saints can pull one out. Given the given the veteran and the experience that Derek Carr has, I do think they'll be able to pull some stuff together. And more so that, like Tony said, the Saints defense is going to clamp down a bit on Jordan Love. Not that he's not having a fantastic season.
it's gonna
He
be a
will
tough
continue
game
to have a fantastic
offensively.
season.
Yeah,
This is just a fantastic defense as well. And
yeah.
who have they played the first? We said the
Tennessee.
Falcons and no, the
Oh, Green
Falcons
Bay.
and the Bears. That's
Bears.
not
Yeah.
two great defenses that they have to go up against.
No, I mean the Falcons defense has
They're better.
performed pretty well, but yeah, we have to see what they actually are more
Yeah.
so as the season goes
Yeah.
on. So we'll see. But yeah, that's good. So you said you wanted to move this next game into the must see, and I get it. The reason
Oh
I
no,
didn't, yeah.
I wanted to
uh,
move the Saints and Green Bay into must see. I
Oh,
forgot
you
about
wanted to
that.
move that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I felt like that was a bit more must see because I feel like it's two good teams that are both doing pretty well.
Honestly, I just can't watch Derek Carr play quarterback and get excited about it. I think
Y'all
he's
just can't
fine,
watch the
but
Saints.
no, I mean, hey, good for them. You know that they're gonna probably win the division if the Falcons
But this
don't do
next
it.
game,
And yeah, so this is the game I'll move into must see. Even though my main thing with it is Miami and Denver, right? So Denver has to go to Miami, and they haven't been bad, Zach. They just also feel like a team this year, similarly to Minnesota because of their luck last year and the Chargers, where it kind of feels like they're just going to find ways to lose. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't, something doesn't feel right. Like Wilson had his best game as a Bronco, probably statistically at least, like production wise last week. And they had the Hail Mary, which was awesome, but then they don't get the 2 point, which sucks. Like I would have
yeah.
loved to see that game go to overtime. But like it just feels like they're gonna find ways to lose, right? And I don't know if that's gonna be the case. We'll have to see how they do against Miami. But I'm as much as I like the Broncos defense overall, they really got shit on last week in the second half of that game. Like it got real bad. Now, granted, Hal played great, and like I'm really glad to see that. We'll talk about him a little bit later. But it's a tough matchup for Denver's defense. And I think their offense can have success against Miami. Like I really do think that Miami is susceptible to certain things. It's just is it going to be enough to keep it close? That's why I didn't really have it must see because I feel like Denver has a chance to score points, but can they score enough to make it fun, at the end?
So it's a 1 p.m. game.
Yes.
It's going to be 86 degrees and sunny.
Yeah.
73% humidity. It's going to be
Sweaty.
it's going to be the Miami home field advantage in full effect yet
Yeah,
again, and I love
exactly.
it.
I know you love it. No one else does.
Hey. If we're gonna be the most southern team in the NFL, we might as well use it to our advantage.
I get it. I get it. Just saying.
Yeah. Denver hasn't played bad, but I would say last week was much more about the Commanders than it was about Denver. Because
Yes,
they were playing a fantastic game. But again, who has the better defense, Denver or the Patriots?
Oh, Patriots probably.
Okay,
Yeah,
if it's the Patriots, then until the Miami plays a better defense than the Patriots, I am not concerned.
Yeah, that's my thing.
Because
Is I think the Dolphins can just score enough points, right?
as it says below my name, my team is 2-0. So what do I have to be concerned about? No, but yeah, it's been very fun to watch so far. Everything that Mike McDaniel has done in year 2 has been exactly what Tony was expecting with the counter punches. He has very much figured out how to effectively game plan. All the things that Tua has done in the offseason has been wonderful. Even the offensive line play is not a problem at the moment.
McDaniel, sorry, has found a way, similarly to Kyle up in San Francisco, to kind of mitigate weaknesses on his offensive line by the way that they play and by the way they call plays. Like he doesn't give them the opportunity to be beaten fast enough.
But here's the thing: are they playing bad though? Like I don't pay attention to grades or
I
anything
would
like that.
I would say that overall, like they're playing better than you would have thought based on the lineup, but they're not dominating teams.
Oh
They're
no, I'm not expecting that. No,
but they're not really like necessarily keeping guys away from Tua. It's more so Tua's pocket presence is taking a step.
is
And
just otherworldly at the moment.
He's getting the ball out on like because he's able to throw about a half second sooner than a lot of guys throw the ball on the same throw, right?
Yeah.
And part of it is because he has to, because he needs a little bit more time to get it out there, I will say. But he's also throwing with anticipation, right? Like that's his main thing is he's getting the ball to a spot, not to a player.
And I mean that was the one thing that everybody talked about with Tua coming into the league is that
his biggest attribute was his ability to put the ball in a certain spot. Yeah.
And when they're going to be there. So yeah. Denver definitely has some defensive backs that I'm a little bit more wary of.
Yeah.
So
Shayne, Simmons, those guys.
So
really
Justin Simmons is out. So
I didn't even see that he was out.
I believe that's what Sophia said.
If he's out, that's tough. That's tough. I didn't know if he was out. I didn't see that.
I just typed in Sophia, not
Shout out Sophia.
Shout out Sophia for pushing this in my head. Justin Simmons. Unsure if Justin Simmons will play. I'm pretty sure she said he's going to be out.
Okay. But yeah,
has been ruled out for Sunday's game against. Yeah,
that hurts a lot. Yeah, that's tough. Again, like, and I'll say it like I think Denver's going to score points in this game, right? I think they're going to score. I just don't know if they'll score enough, right? Because like you're dealing with a Miami offense that is just running on all cylinders right now, and unless you can find a way to disrupt the timing of things, which that's one of the reasons like Tyreek in motion should not. I honestly think the NFL would have an argument to not let them do that. Like that's how scary that is because this guy get a running start on a route. Like what do we like? That's not cool, man. Like that's not allowed, right? Mike, what are you doing?
I mean, it is.
This isn't cool.
Hey, just tell. Hey, Matt Canada was supposed to be a pre-snap motion whiz.
He just likes to do it without. There's no reason for it. Zach.
Well,
like,
yeah,
you didn't know that. Like,
it's just the running starts too.
It's just to do it. He doesn't actually do it for like a reason. Like it's just so he can say he does it. You didn't know that?
But I'll say that the defense played a lot better for Miami last week, so I'm hoping that continues.
Denver's offense, like I said, I really believe in them. It's just I don't think they can outscore Miami. They're going to have to. I don't trust this defense to like from what I saw last week. I don't think this is going to be the week that the Dolphins' offense doesn't. Well, right? Like that's what
at this point in the season, from what I've seen through 2 weeks, I don't know if there is an offense that can outscore Miami. The only one that I would have said would have been the Chargers, and they didn't do it.
They tried their best, but the defense really didn't want to let them do it.
I guess the only thing that you have right now, if you're a team in the NFL and you want to beat Miami without outscoring them, is you need something like the Dallas Cowboys, who could do something to shut them down defensively and slow them down a little bit to give their offense a chance.
That's what it is. It's like until Miami plays a defense that I think can disrupt them.
Yeah,
it's just going to be hard to outscore them, obviously. And like
I don't have faith in the Broncos like front seven to be enough of a pressure unit against Tua to like really slow him down much. And until that happens,
so I'm going to say 31 to 24 Miami wins.
Yeah, I'll do 31-20 because I think it'll be more than one possession.
Gotcha. Okay. Moving to Buffalo at Washington. Very interesting game. Is
Now,
going to be probably
before we
ugly.
no, before we read Tony's thing, I just want to read something because I
Okay.
want to look up the weather because I want to say that most of the weather should be done by the time the game is.
Apparently the wind should die down, and it just might be raining throughout. That's the main thing. It might be
Yeah,
a little bit of a mess, and we know Washington's field is not exactly the
rain
best.
early, then remaining cloudy with showers in the afternoon.
Right.
High
So like
67, winds north at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Rainfall around a quarter of an inch. So it's going to be a little
right.
muddy, but I
That's what I'm
don't
saying. It's going to get a little bit gross, I think, but not hopefully the
I
monsoon
don't
that
think it's
Tony was
yeah, I
expecting.
don't
Yeah.
think it's gonna, but and that's the bigger thing. I don't think it's gonna like take over and like make this an unplayable game. Like it's like some like crazy
Right.
Blizzard game or like whatever. It's just gonna be like a normal rain game. Like
Yeah, which
and
it does limit things a little bit sometimes
let's
in the
talk
past
about the
game. But
boys because I
yeah,
was told
yeah,
there wasn't a
Zach.
game worth watching last week.
Yeah, man. Listen, so I had to talk myself into it first, and then I've been trying to talk other people into it. Sam Howell looks good, man. Sam looks good. I really didn't
Sam looks good.
understand. I
The
didn't understand
offense
him
looks good.
going. Yeah, I didn't understand him going in the fifth round in the draft. I really didn't get it. He was a second round pick to me. Just if you
Well,
look at
was
tape.
Mitch the other one before him?
Hmm?
Was Mitch the last? Was Trubisky the one drafted before him from UNC?
The last quarterback drafted since.
Then I totally understand because of
Well,
the overhype on him.
yeah, I get it, but like you saw what he was able to do in his last year with an offense that just I couldn't figure out what the hell they were trying to do, and he still looked okay and was a great
You
rushing threat.
you it's just,
Like
I think it's a UNC thing. UNC is a
maybe,
weird team
yeah,
to scout from because and I mean to be fair, a lot of ACC teams unless it's like Clemson or I mean even
yeah.
Clemson, look how far Watson
Sometimes,
dropped.
yeah,
Um
sometimes it's tough,
Yeah, so
but
I don't think they necessarily translate well to the recruiting side because of like the competition and like how like the ACC is perceived to not be as good. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're not as good quarterbacks.
right,
And I
yeah,
think that probably hit him a bit harder since it was UNC. I mean that would be like if there was a pretty good quarterback coming from Virginia Tech, I guarantee you that he would slide to the 4th or 5th round because they're like, oh, this dude's at Virginia Tech. Like
Rod Taylor back in the day. Yeah, but no, I think mostly with how at this point, like he's just you could tell he's very confident in what he's doing. And I think
yes.
that's the key thing here is when you have a quarterback that wants to attack downfield, is very capable of doing so and feels confident in what he's seeing, you get some big explosive plays. And you saw that against Denver. He's very much in control of what he's doing, more so than I thought he would be this early in his career. I did think we'd see some flashes, right? Like this year I was hoping just to see enough flashes for them to think, okay, maybe he's good enough for us to not have to worry about being in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes or
Yeah.
trying to, make things happen so that we can get a high pick. And so far he's doing that, and honestly more than I would have thought. So like I think if
Well,
you're
that's where
Commanders, yeah,
that's where I get frustrated about the whole Ron Rivera thing because that's where he made that comment about, oh, we saw the flashes last year. And it's like, well, if you saw the flashes, then why did you bring Carson Wentz back in after you were done with Heineke? Because at that point, that's when you should have put Sam Howell in and be like, hey,
yeah,
this is our move for the future. We're gonna give him 3-4 weeks to play to get the rookie yips out. And then
yeah.
next season he'll be ready to go, ready to start week 1, and we'll be good.
Yeah, and, like, ideally, that's what they would have done, but it's worked out still so
If
far, so
they continue this, which it's worth noting, the Commanders are 2-0. Like the
undefeated,
area
now
the
starts the
area
game.
around Washington is hyped and thrilled. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
you gotta be happy for them, yeah.
Somehow, some way, Ron Rivera is going to coach himself into keeping his job, whether it's in spite of his coaching or not.
Maybe.
But this is hey, maybe this is one of those times where it wasn't just Andy Reid, it wasn't just Eric Bieniemy, it was both of them. They were both working together, and they can both have
Yeah,
success.
I've always
And
felt that. I don't think
yeah,
that I think that Bieniemy is a head coaching candidate. It kinda it is what it is. I don't know if he'll ever have that opportunity, but as an offensive coordinator, I think
I
he's
think
very
he
capable.
will. The issue comes in when you're behind somebody as prolific as Andy Reid, and I mean I mean, it was the same thing as we were talking about with the Brady and Belichick thing. It's not quite the same because that's player and coach, but I mean, this is head coach and coordinator. And I mean, maybe you've seen it a little bit with the way that some of these Shanahan trees have branched out.
You mean half the damn league?
Well, yeah, but I mean, not
Exactly.
all of them have gone well. But there are
No, no,
some
it's
where
yeah.
there's some where you could argue, oh, Mike McDaniel, like
Sean McVay, yeah,
that was
like
that
yeah.
could have been both of them. Like
Mhm.
it's both of them making that offense, and he was able to leave and like as opposed to a Belichick disciple that leaves Belichick and goes and doesn't necessarily do well. McDaniel went and was able to implant the San Francisco running game somewhere else and make other improvements on it to make it evolve into the whole offense.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I'm very excited to see what happens for Washington this year. Last week was also very big for Buffalo because they got back on
Yes.
track.
Yeah. Josh
So
Allen
I mean,
stopped playing weird.
we would be remiss. I know the resident Buffalo fan is not here.
Yes.
We would be remiss if we did not mention them at all. Which I think it's going to make for a very, very, very interesting game for Washington because this is going to be more dependent on does their defense show up. Does the Commanders defense show up? Can they rattle Josh Allen? Can they get him to do the stupid stuff that Josh Allen does every now and then and get him to just turn the ball over and give them more chances? Because that's the thing I think that benefits the Commanders the most is give Sam Howell as many chances as possible. So if he makes a mistake because he is still very young and early, it won't matter if you make one mistake if you got 9, 10, 11 drives in the game because okay, one mess up out of 12, we still have plenty more chances to get down there.
Yeah, and I think the key for the Bills is you have to play the style of game you played last week. Do not
Yes.
let this front four take over, get the ball out quick. Josh Allen has to make quick decisions, smart decisions. Because you saw what happens. Like against a bad defense, which not Washington's not a bad defense, but against Raiders where you don't have to worry about trying to get big plays because you can just create them on your own by just
Yeah.
getting run after catch and just having more talent than the other team. The Bills have to play this game as like, okay, it's going to be gross, probably it's going to be muddy. Let's rely on the short game. Let's rely on the running backs. Let's get things going. Let's sustain drives. Because what you don't want to have happen, like you said, is you don't want to have the big play mistakes, right? You don't want to have Josh Allen pressing and throw the ball down the field and you know, they get the ball taken away from them too many times.
Yeah.
Because in a game like this, where Sam Howell's playing really well, the Washington offense looks really good overall, it could get closer than they probably want it to be. And they are at home with Washington.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a very close game. And Tony agreed. It
And
actually he said it'd be equal. The weather equalizes a little bit, but the Bills squeak by. I do think the Bills are going to come away with a win here
yeah.
on the road, but it's going to be a very tough game, and I think it's going to make people really trust the Commanders this year more than maybe they do right now.
And I think for once when talking about all these games, both teams are fairly healthy.
Yes, which
There's
that's
not
always good to see.
Logan Thomas is out, but I mean
He's
after
been out
watching
most of the time.
well,
Anyways.
no, after watching that hit last week, oh man, he got popped.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
got
Kareem Jackson's trying to kill people this year.
destroyed.
Something's going on with that.
So
Weird.
I'm very like you said about the front four. If this is one of the best front fours in the league.
Yeah, this might be the
And
best one the Bills play the rest of the year,
yeah,
honestly.
yeah.
I'd have to double check their schedule, but I don't think they're facing a lot of the other top
I mean,
units. So.
Chase Young, Darren Payne, Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat. You can't get much better than that front four.
They had a ton
Um,
of pressures again.
and then
Granted, the
you add in
Broncos were
Jamin
blocking everybody,
Davis
but
right behind that
yeah.
in the linebacker. It's going to be a great test. I wanna pick the upset.
I know. I kind of wanted to too, but yeah.
And I think I'm going to do it because I know
All
you
right,
two
that's
would have
fine.
picked Buffalo, and I do this, and I'm going to
I
roll
think
with them
it's listen.
until they prove me wrong.
I totally think they can win this game. I think the Bills are the more experienced team, and they're the team that has Josh Allen at quarterback, and I think that's enough in a game where I expect it to be pretty close, right? I think if it was
Yeah,
a situation where the Bills had more, if they were injured or if they had less going for them, if they weren't coming off a really good game where they showed they can play within structure, they can kind of play their game and not really do too much. I think that they continue to do that. I think it'll be enough
yeah.
against the Commanders in a game like this. So I'll say 24-21 Bills. I don't think it's going to be a huge shootout or anything. It's going to be a pretty low scoring game by their standards, at least.
I'm going to go. I'm going to go 27-24 Washington.
Okay, yeah, I think that's also pretty fair scoreline there. Philadelphia at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay starting 2-0 and making us feel real bad about ourselves as far as our predictions. Baker Mayfield's playing at a starting quarterback
Wait,
level.
you said Philadelphia starting 2-0, making us feel really bad
No,
about our
Tampa Bay
predictions.
starting 2-0.
Oh, okay, okay. I was about to say, wait, that's exactly what I said.
No, Tampa Bay starting
Yes,
2-0.
yes.
Baker Mayfield playing at a starting level is what I'll say. Nothing like truly spectacular or anything like that, but playing at starting level is more than we really could have expected from
Well,
him based on what
I
we've
mean,
seen from him.
there's a lot of quarterbacks that can play at a starting level. It's whether you can play at a above starting level. I don't think starting level is
I would say there's less than 20 starting level quarterbacks every year, truly, in terms of what I consider a starting quarterback. So like that's here or there semantics, but my point is he's playing like a guy that's actually helping them win and not just helping them like prevent them from losing. Right? I think he's been a part
well,
of why they're winning.
and I
Which
think I think again, as bad as we thought they were going to be, I think
they still have talent, Zach, and that's what
exactly.
it is.
Everybody kind of forgot that. Like everybody's like, "Oh, Brady's gone." Yeah, but
There's still a lot of talent there.
they
Still a lot
still
of
have Mike
talent.
Evans, they still have Chris Godwin, they still have Tristan Wirfs, they still have a very talented defense. Um, this
I was
is
just yeah.
this is still a very good team. I think it's just like it's the Brady go bye bye, and we don't necessarily care anymore. Because we're like, what's the
Yeah.
story? What's the drama? What's the
Well, I think the bigger thing was like they have the talent, but I think the question was whether they could put it together into a winning formula with Baker Mayfield as a starting quarterback, right? And like granted, like he doesn't have to play spectacular for this offense to be good enough. But I think him just playing well so far has just not been what we kind of
yeah
necessarily were betting on. Like again, like he's a guy that he's been very streaky throughout his career, right? You're not expecting a ton of consistency from him. But so far he's played within himself. He hasn't done too much. I think he's really kind of leaning into the fact like, okay, I have weapons. I have an offensive system that works well enough. Like I'm just gonna kind of play within myself, not try to do all the crazy stuff and be
Yeah, and
successful.
I think the other thing is the way that this team fell off the end of last season, that being Tampa Bay, um, kind of gave them like a smelly like exit to the season, kind of like put some like sour grapes in people's mouth of like, no, this is not a good team.
Right.
Whereas we watched Baker Mayfield play on a bad Rams team and do pretty damn
He he
good.
he acquitted himself well,
Pretty damn good.
especially that game
Um,
he came in after, like, 2 days of
Yeah,
knowing the
and I
coach
and I
and
and I feel like a lot
yeah.
of his issues in his career, maybe I mean, while he does have his own issues with playing, while like he has his own mistakes, some of it was organizational with being in
Oh, I
Cleveland
mean,
and how
but
and going to a team that is a bit more stable, he can be a starting quarterback. Like
yeah,
he
yeah,
was a starting quarterback with Cleveland. He had just ended badly, and there needed to
right.
be a separation. That I mean, it was the same thing with Tannehill and the Dolphins. When they separated, it wasn't that Tannehill wasn't a starting quarterback. It was like
He
they
stagnated with them.
stagnated. Miami
Yeah,
and Tannehill got to the point where they just couldn't do anything more, and it was time for them to leave.
right.
It got the same with Mayfield and the Browns, and he finally got another chance to show, like, yeah, no, I have this talent. There's a reason why I was a walk on and I was a Heisman Trophy winner. Like, I have the talent. I just need a different opportunity. Um, as far as doing it against Philadelphia, though,
This is where
I don't
again,
know about
this is
that.
where we get to see how serious of a team the Bucks are
Yeah,
because they're at home. If they can win this game, right? Especially if they can do so and look pretty good doing it, like not like a weird, crazy game where a bunch of stupid shit happens, like an actual, like straight up just dogfight that they can win. One, it tells me a lot about Tampa that they can actually hang with the top teams in the NFC. But it also says a lot about Philadelphia and whether or not their ceiling is as high as it was last year. And I think that's really the question with Philadelphia through 2 games. It's not so much whether they're a good team because they're still a really good team. Do they have the ceiling that they had last year with the corners getting older and maybe not playing quite as well so far, with the offense not being quite as explosive because of the play calling not being there anymore from Shane Steichen? can they elevate themselves to the level that they were at last year? I think that's very much a question mark. I don't think it's a question of whether the Philadelphia Eagles are a really good football team. Like I said, it's just can they get back to a Super Bowl with this current iteration with everything they have going on? Maybe. I'm still a little. I want to see this offense have a game that actually looks like a game they had last year. Like they had their moments against Minnesota. They scored 34 points, right?
Yeah.
But it hasn't looked or felt the same, right? And you want to see a game like that. And this is a tough test on the road. If they can do it in against Tampa, then I'm going to be definitely perked up about the Eagles being again a true Super Bowl contender. So far, I'm more so wondering if they can get that magic back from last year.
I think they can.
Yeah, I think they have the players to do it. It's just I wonder about the coaching offensively, like play calling and stuff. So, but I'm going to say that they do go into Tampa and they get the win. They are still the better team. They're the more
Yeah.
talented team. I'm going to say 28-24. I think that it's going to be it is going to be a really good game. I do think so. I don't think it's going to be a blowout or anything like that. So I got to give Tampa credit. I do think they've played really well so far, but Philadelphia's just better.
I'm going to say 28-20. The Baker Mayfield has a chance to score at the end, and the Eagles get an interception or some sort of turnover to stop and seal the deal. Obviously, it would have needed a 2-point conversion, but anyways, but
yeah,
that's the point.
So moving on here to Atlanta at Detroit. One of my games I'm really, really interested in this week, not just because I have it as a must-see game, but Detroit really just disappointing loss against Seahawks, lose again to that team in overtime. Defense lets them down again. Jared Goff finally throws a pick after like however many attempts. Not a bad pick or anything like that, but it's like but at the end of the day, like Detroit still feels to me like a team that they're still just missing a little something.
Well,
I don't know if it's defensively. What's up?
Well, they're missing a lot of something this week.
Well, yeah, I know that, but like they're in general, like it just kind of feels like they're not quite all the way there. I think they'll be good enough still this year to still make a playoff appearance for the first time in however long. Like I think they're a good team, but something just still doesn't seem.
I think they're still young, especially on the defensive side. I mean, especially on the defensive side, you have a lot. You're asking a lot
of your
young
best players are young. Yeah, with Hutchinson and guys like that.
So, and I think that's why we're seeing some of this specifically on the defensive side, and why the offensive side is. I mean, offensive side is anchored by what Jared Goff is like a 10-year vet almost.
No, he's 7. I think this year is.
He was 2016. So
2016, so 7 or 8. I think. I forget which one it is.
I mean, 8-year vet. You got David Montgomery, who's been here a while. Josh Reynolds has been in the league a while. Marvin Jones Jr. has been in the league a while.
Long time. Long time.
You're outside of like Penei Sewell and Jonah Jackson. You're although I don't know about Vaitai.
He's been around for a while now.
Yeah, I mean, you have a very like tenured offensive unit, which makes sense why that's.
And you have a receiver who's one of the best receivers in the league at this point with St.
Now,
so
this week though, the offense is going to have a rough time. Jared Goff is going to be down. At least David Montgomery. Amon-Ra St. Brown is hindered. Josh Reynolds is hindered. Taylor Decker's out. Vaitai's out. It's not going to be fun. Their defense is pretty healthy, but you're going against a team that excels, another time where the team excels in what you are just awful at, and that is defending the rushing attack. So I think
this is a game, Zach, where like so far Atlanta hasn't had to prove to me they can throw the football.
I think they're going to have to this week,
and like maybe, but again, I think that they haven't had to prove it, and I think in a different way than the way Shanahan has not had to prove that Brock Purdy can play quarterback. Actually, Atlanta has been able to avoid finding out if Ritter can truly play quarterback either, but for different reasons, right? It's not because he doesn't have to make difficult throws; it's because he doesn't have to throw. That's the thing. And like he made some plays last week in the passing game when he needed to, but like there was a couple ugly balls that should have been intercepted that would have changed the game for the Packers. Like admittedly, like Alexander should have had a pick six at one point. Like there were some ugly moments, and I think if they get into a game where the Lions passing offense is still able to take over on against the defense, even with St. Brown like hindered, like you said, Reynolds hindered, I think the pass blocking will be okay because the Falcons front just isn't scary to me.
Yeah.
Like I just don't think they're going to be like I don't think they're going to be getting a ton of pressure or anything like that. If the Falcons have to go score 30 points, I don't know if they can do it just with their run game. As great as it's been. And Bijan Robinson has been more than advertised so far.
Yeah.
Like maybe, like granted, he hasn't had the same level of like carries as some of the other running backs in the league, but maybe the best running back in the league through 2 weeks, realistically.
Yeah.
Like if you could make the argument in just terms of like what he's done on the field, like just looking at it.
The highlight plays are as advertised.
It's yeah. I mean, it's not fair for a guy to be able to move like that laterally. But again,
it's not fair for Atlanta to have him either.
No, it's not. I mean, Algier's still been great when he's been given up. Like, it's if they can't force the Falcons to need to put the ball in the air to make plays, the Lions are going to have trouble even being at home. That's the main thing. Is I think the Falcons' game plan, when it works, it's hard to deal with. It's just again, can you put them in a spot where they're down 2 touchdowns, and they have to come back from that, and they have to get in the drop back passing game because Arthur Smith clearly doesn't want to do it. He's got a super freak at tight end, doesn't care, doesn't need to be there. Drake London had 0 targets or whatever the first week of the season, I think it was, or whatever it was. Like they just don't care, right? Like they don't need to know anything. Like they don't need to throw the ball to these guys. And I think Detroit could score enough to make that a possibility where they have to do that. And I'm curious to see what it would look like if so, because like they have weapons clearly, right? Like we know that Pitts is a good player. We know that London's a good player. I'm just curious to see what it looked like if they had to put the ball in the air, 4, 5, 6 times on a drive purposely. I don't know. It's interesting. But I'm going to say that Atlanta, I'm not giving them the edge simply because of the fact that I think Detroit's passing game is still going to be an issue for them. I'm going to say Detroit squeaks by with a 27-24 win at home, despite some of the injuries. I think the Falcons don't have to go to their passing game so much that we really find out whether it's going to work or not. But I think we see a little bit more of plays from Desmond Ridder, and we're hoping to see a little bit more from Kyle Pitts and Drake London too.
I'm going to go with Tony here, and I think that Atlanta's going to squeak one out.
Yeah, totally could happen. I think so.
24-23. It'll be like a really close one. Like it'll be another close
game. It feels like a close one for sure, just with everything going on. Plus, Atlanta kind of plays in a way that's hard for them to lose by a lot unless they get down early and can't throw the ball. So it happens. And the last one I had on here was I'm hoping that Burrow plays and he's questionable for.
It's not looking good.
If I shouldn't say hope Burrow plays because I think honestly you should probably say it, but like. The reason I had to put this on must see is we're seeing a team that might have their season end 3 games in. And I don't want to say
we said this the year they went to the Super Bowl?
Yeah. The problem with it, Zach, is like if it's because Burrow's calf isn't right.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
If they can't get things going offensively with him in there, which they haven't through 2 games. They have not gotten it going. If he isn't going to be 100% for a while, regardless of whether he plays or not, you can't go down 0-3 in the AFC and expect to make the playoffs, let alone win the division. Especially if the Ravens start off 3-0, which it looks like they're going to. I really think they'll beat the Colts, obviously.
Yeah.
The Browns and Steelers both could end up being 2-1 after this week. It's totally possible. You do not want to fall down 3 games in the playoff race this early. Like it's making the playoffs 0-3, I don't know what the numbers are. They can't be good, right? And like this is a team that could totally get hot and go 12-2 down the stretch or whatever they did like they did last year. But my concern is if it's because Burrow can't get right and the offense can't get right, they're not going to go on that run, right? Like they're not going to be able to do that if that's part of the problem. What's up, Zach?
So the chances are not good.
Yeah, I figured.
Would you like to take a stab at the percentage?
8%.
Oh no.
No?
2.5% chance.
Yikes.
Of making the playoff since the field has expanded to 12 teams in 1990. Only 4 teams have made the playoffs after starting 0-3. The 1992 San Diego Chargers.
I remember that.
1995 Detroit Lions, which would be one of the
The last few times they went with Stafford once or twice, but
yeah, the 1998 Buffalo Bills and the 2018 Houston Texans.
Exactly. So again, I'm not writing them off entirely if they lose this game, but it's going to be really hard. They already did it last year, starting 0-2, going 12-2 down the stretch. I don't know if this team can do the same thing, especially if Burrow isn't 100%
Is not 100%,
healthy.
yeah.
Because if he sits this game and they lose and he's good after that, then it becomes a different conversation. Because now you still have 14 games left to prove.
And
if you can get back
they
to
have
that.
a decently winnable schedule.
They
I
do
mean,
for being a first place team. They do.
yeah, they get
But
Tennessee, Arizona.
yeah.
I mean, if he's 100% healthy, they could be fine. But
that's my main concerns. I want to see if he's going to play in this game. He says this says questionable.
82 yards in the first game.
I know, trust me, I know. It made me feel better about the Steelers for like a week, and then we played the Browns, and it was bad too. But the point is if he plays this week and they don't look good, then why? Why is he out there? Like, just go out there with Jake Browning, take your lumps, try to see if you can stack together a win somehow.
Jake Browning,
anyway.
or as Tony put in the show chat, they are bringing in former Bengals legend AJ McCarron for a workout.
No shot, really?
Yeah,
that's awesome. I like AJ McCarron, but
yeah.
Anyway, the point is whoever's playing quarterback for them, if it's not Joe Burrow, they're probably not going to win, but they have a shot still. It's just I think with the Rams, like they're playing good football overall, and I don't expect them to lose this game, and especially if Burrow doesn't play. But if he plays, it's a toss-up then for me still.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting season from the Rams, especially since the Buccaneers the Buccaneers were one thing, but man, we really piled on the Rams.
I just felt like there's so much youth that was unproven that how do you pick that team to be good? Like, and also we're factoring in Stafford either not being the same guy or being injured, and so far
and
he's been neither.
The same guy.
Yeah, he's been neither. He's been phenomenal overall.
Well, he's been the same guy. He's been the same guy that won the Super Bowl.
Him and Puka, like again,
and Tutu Atwell, Van Jefferson.
Yeah,
who would have thought when they put Cooper Kupp on IR that this team was nuts?
That's the thing, right? Is like I've seen people talk about on Twitter this week. Like, when are we going to start talking about like Matthew Stafford and his wide receiver ones being phenomenal together? Like, not just the receivers being good, but like Stafford being the reason why they're so good. Like Johnson, as great as Calvin Johnson was, the reason he put up those numbers more so than just his talent is because Stafford had supreme confidence in throwing the ball to him and targeted him like the talent he actually was.
Well, I mean, yeah, but that's what happens when you throw it up into triple coverage and your guy comes down.
My point is that like he plays quarterback in a way.
Kupp was playing fantastic before he got Stafford.
Absolutely, but my point being is like we've seen the two most prolific wide receiver seasons of all time come from Matthew Stafford throwing guys the football, right?
I think that might just be happenstance. I don't
think so. I think there's a very real correlation.
If you had put Houston Deshaun Watson with Cooper Kupp or Calvin Johnson, I think you would have seen the same. I mean, we watched DeAndre Hopkins go nuts with Watson.
He didn't go nuts in the way that I know that Hopkins isn't, Calvin Johnson, but like I'm talking about like a guy who he specifically his receiver one is so important to the way that he plays quarterback and so important to the offenses that he's played in. He makes a concerted effort to like, this is the guy. Everyone else, they can have their moments. They can if they get open, they're going to get the ball. But he creates situations for his wide receiver one where they can play to the best of their ability. That's what I feel like I've seen with Stafford.
I guess maybe
look at Nakua so far. I understand he's played great, but like Stafford's like, yeah, you're wide receiver one. You're getting the football. If you're gonna get open, you're gonna get the football. And like, look at the numbers he's put up through 2 games.
But what about all those years in Detroit after Johnson retired and
Golden Tate's best years? Every receiver he's played with that's been their receiver one, best years of their career by far. Kenny Galladay's best years, Marvin Jones' best years as a player, as a receiver, like they're all of them come with Stafford.
I would have to look at the Golden Tate and the
his best numbers like in his career happen as
I think Wilson might have snuck in and beat out a couple of Stafford's years with Golden Tate.
But my point being is that like we've seen Stafford continuously have his receiver one be one of the best performers in the NFL at his position consistently. And I think there's a reason for that outside of just the talent. I'm not saying these guys aren't good receivers, obviously, but he maximizes them in ways that maybe other guys wouldn't do or aren't able to do. And I think that you're seeing that with Nakua, and I think you'll see it again once Cup is healthy. But this guy, he produces receivers, man. Like he like allows these guys to be the best version of themselves. And I think in this game he's going to continue to do that with Nakua. I think that the Rams will win this game if Burrow doesn't play, especially. But I think they're just going to win it in general.
I
I
think
really do.
no, I think they'll win in general. I
Yeah,
mean, it would be very nice to see if Burrow plays to see a good game from him, but I don't think that's going to matter.
it's hard. It's hard to say at this point because it just looks so disjointed. Like I think the
Well, I
problem
mean,
is
they
that
scored 24 points last week. Let's not act like they didn't do anything.
they didn't look great doing it though.
They didn't look great, but they still scored points. I
They
mean,
did, but like I think the biggest problem is like if Burrow's
I
not
mean,
100%
let's
healthy.
let's
Yeah,
let's let, let, let's be honest. If the Steelers didn't look great, but they scored 24 points, you'd be thrilled.
yeah, but like that's a different standard, man. Yeah, we're talking about Matt Canada.
That's what I'm saying. Like, as I'm less concerned because they were able to score some points last week and find some cohesion. So if they do, if Burrow is good enough to play, which I don't, I think him coming into this game questionable and there
I
being
just
talk
wouldn't
is,
do it.
but that's evidence in itself that maybe he should just go ahead and sit because he's not healthy.
That's what I'm
If there's
saying.
even
But
talk about it, but it's again, is it to the point that him sitting out this week means he's 100% healthy next week and good to go? Or is it, no, I'm just sitting out to get back to like 75, 80%. So that way I could get like, and then that's where it's going to become more problematic. Whereas you say down the stretch, are they going to be able to win enough games if he's that hampered? So
that's my issue.
I don't think we're going to
yeah.
get that sort of like transparency from Cleveland or from Cincinnati.
No,
So
with his injury, like there's always going to be a bit of a risk for re-injury with a soft tissue injury like a calf strain until you just let it sit long enough. But that's the problem. What's up, Zach? What's going on?
Virginia Tech is losing to Marshall at halftime.
Oh, that makes sense. I'm not surprised. I'm just kidding.
We lost to Rutgers last week.
Yeah, I know. I didn't want to say anything, but no. But
no, it's okay. It's okay.
Before we get out of here, my main thing with the Bengals offense too is like if Burrow isn't himself, the play calling isn't that great. I know they've been very successful, but Zach Taylor is not this like
okay. Well, this is, I mean,
play caller, right? Like
we could bring in many of our former Bengals ATB representatives who will tell you right now that Zach Taylor needed to be fired a long time ago.
That's my point, because like if Burrow, when he's healthy and the receivers are good and everything's working, it doesn't really matter that much. A lot of the
so then maybe that's the hope for the Bengals this season. If Burrow's injury is a lot worse off than it actually is, what it's going to do is just put into the magnifying glass the awfulness that Zach Taylor is for head coaching, and we'll probably get him out of here. So you can rely on that.
Out of here, but like I think the problem is again, like it's not even that he's like the worst head coach or anything like that. It's that, like his abilities to play caller, which was the whole reason he was brought in, was the offensive guru type of head coach, right? That just hasn't really transpired. Like not in the way that they wanted. I think he's a McVay disciple, isn't he?
What was he, McVay or LaFleur?
I think he was one of the two. I know it was one of the Shanahan tree guys that he came under. I want to say it's McVay, but I could be wrong.
Because
I just it's been a while because he obviously was hired a while ago, so I haven't thought about it.
Let's see.
But I know I'm pretty sure he coached under definitely one of them.
Okay, so yeah, he was the quarterback's coach for Los Angeles. So
that's what I thought.
But he was never an offensive coordinator for I lied. He was the offensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins in 2015.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a great year, right?
Probably not.
No, I don't know. I have no idea. But the point is that until Burrow's healthy, this offense is not going to be the same. It just isn't. They're not going to be able to. I don't think Zach Taylor's going to adjust in a way that helps them mitigate that fact. And ultimately, I'm going to say Rams 28-24. I do think the Bengals can score some points. Like you said, I think they're capable of doing that. I just don't think they're the team that can just go out there and just make it happen offensively whenever they want to, like they have.
And not against the Rams team that is
playing very well.
Yes,
playing very well. Yeah. So, but long show as we expect.
Yeah, still went 2 hours.
Hey,
You shouldn't have said anything.
we got to BS around for a while. It was good time, good fun. I'll be back with you guys next week to highlight all the games for week 4. In the meantime, definitely follow Zach and I.
Oh,
But
as Tony said, this is the game that flips our preseason expectations.
yes, it totally could. It 100% could. I'm predicting that it will, honestly. So we'll see. But so that'll do it for this week. We'll see. Hopefully, Tony back next week. Hopefully, feeling a little bit better.
Hopefully,
But
yes.
glad he was able to contribute in some way still for us here. But we'll see you guys next week and enjoy the rest of the college day. I'm sure, obviously, Zach, I hope that Virginia Tech doesn't blow it.
It's only 17-10, but it's not looking good.
Yeah,
I
hope it won't. But
honestly, at this point in the season, I haven't looked at the schedule again. And here I'll give you guys a live look into how pitiful college football is for me right now. We might win one more game.
Well,
we might go. No. It won't be today. It will be the last game of the season against UVA because UVA is also that bad.
Oh yeah, Virginia is just going through it with a.
Oh, did you see that? Did you see that score bug thing yesterday?
No.
They had, I guess UVA played last night. And they were on ESPN or something, and the score bug, they had the Argyle design that the UVA always has, and all the white, and it was white navy, and all the white ones they had Virginia in blue letters, but the score bug cut it off at VIRGIN. And it was just straight up on TV. Yeah, poor UVA. They just can't catch a break.
Yeah,
I can always hold that at it's one game I can look forward to that we might win. But yeah, we've lost to Purdue, Rutgers, and currently Marshall. We've only beat ODU.
That's a gauntlet, Zach. What do you mean? No. I'll do it for us this week. We'll see you guys next week. Take care.